So let's get a bit more of this Bad Moon Yellow, shake it up a bit more. We'll take a bigger break a little later. These paints are pretty old. They're from like the 90s, I think. These ones. And it's pretty impressive that this one here still is like wet. Like it hasn't dried out. Games Workshop or Citadel changed their paint bottles at a certain point to, let's see, do I have one of the old type? To this. And this is actually a slight adjustment from the original release of this bottle. They called them like the bolter shell bottle, right? Because it's supposed to look like the shells that go into like a bolt gun for the Space Marines, I guess. But these bottles are absolute trash. The original release of them were like a twist top, right? Like a jar. And after a while, it became so hard to twist off and take off the bottle, the cap, because some paint would get into like the threading, right? And it would just solidify into a glue. And it was just so hard to open it, right? And so in response, they created this flip top, right? But it still sucked. Somehow it still was really bad, and paint would often dry out on people for this bottle design. And yet this design from, 10 years prior, if that, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, still was far better and more functional and preserved the paint inside far better than this. And then a little later, they introduced this type of bottle, right? After this kind. And I think it's kind of somewhere in between. It's somewhere in between this and this. Because paint will kind of dry with these bottles, but it's still like 5 times better than this, I'd say. So yeah, that's just a little history lesson of the paint bottles of Citadel miniatures, I guess. Citadel paint.